What's up? What's happening? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Of course, streaming live on YouTube if you like to watch us at the Team 980. Anthony, you and I have already talked to each other for an hour plus today. Well, I guess you weren't there for the whole time. You had some business you had to take care of. But earlier today, we did our fantasy draft. We'll review some of the highlights of the actual drafting and some of the jokes that were made at each other's expense. Coming up at, when is that? Later, like 6:30 today? So that's way later in the show. Our guy Noah Eagle is going to stop by for a little bit before he is off to Brazil to call the Packers-Eagles game on Friday. And we need your help at 4:30 with a segment that we are going to do every Wednesday here on the Team 980, which is Competition Wednesday. So we'll explain what we need. I would just say this. Be thinking of both punishments and rewards that would be funny for Anthony and I to have to suffer or get rewarded with on the radio. What's something that could be the stakes of a small weekly wager between the two of us?
Yes, very reasonable. Something, that's not out of the ordinary.
Yeah. We will need 1 year long something. Yes. So if you want to think a little bigger, we can put that in the bucket, if you will. But we're going to need your help at 4:30. However, we're starting the show today with something that, Anthony, quite frankly, we have had in our back pocket since way before I left for France. This was something we thought of as a summer topic, and we kept pushing it off because there was stuff to talk about that I thought was more important and pertinent in every show since we thought about it. And finally, we get to a point where if we don't use it now, it's never going to happen. And I think this is actually the best time to do it, right before the season. The simple premise is this. What are the best and worst case scenarios for the Commanders this year in regards to some of their new additions? Now, let's remember, the Commanders are almost entirely new additions. They have more roster turnover than any other team in the NFL by a significant margin, by 5 or 6% on a 53-player roster. So there is a lot of different directions we could go here in terms of new players. But Anthony, I'll let you be the dealer here, dealer's choice. Who do we want to talk about first? It could be a rookie, it could be a veteran acquisition, but if it goes really well, this is what it looks like, and this is what it means for the team. If it goes really poorly, this is what it looks like, and this is what it means for the team.
I'll start off with the layup. Brandon Coleman.
Oh, wow, that wasn't the layup I was. That's at least like a Euro step. I figured you might, if you're going to go on layup, you probably go with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
But no, Brandon Coleman's a good one. He's an interesting one because I actually don't know that the swing is quite as wild. And that is, because unlike some of these other guys we're going to talk about, there's a floor underneath Brandon Coleman, and that floor is named Cornelius Lucas, right? So if best case scenario, I think, is really actually impactful, not just in the short term, but the long term. The best case scenario for Brandon Coleman is he is, I think, not great, but in year one, a very solid left tackle with the potential upside to be great with some more experience. I highly doubt that a third-round pick is going to come in with very limited training camp because of an injury and be incredible from day one, where all of a sudden we're like, man, this guy played at a Pro Bowl level, and he's not – like, you don't get recognition as an offensive lineman probably till at least 2 years after you deserve it. It's just kind of the nature of the position. It's not one that people pay as close of attention to, and there's not counting stats to back stuff up in the way that you have receptions or rushing yards or touchdowns for other positions. But I think Brandon Coleman could, with his athleticism, when used properly, be really effective. Let's call it B+ across the board. That's a bunch of A games, maybe a couple of rookie moments against some tougher rushers, but B+ tackle play across the year, plays all 17 games, and most importantly, definitively says, this is my spot for the future. That in the future, you don't need to draft a tackle. You don't need to spend a first rounder on it next year. You can go draft a receiver, draft a right tackle if you want to, if you don't get a good play out of Wiley, or if you want to upgrade on Wiley. You can go draft an edge rusher. You can go draft a corner, whatever it is that they decide they need after the year. Not having to feel like you need a left tackle in next year's draft is the most important thing that Brandon Coleman can accomplish this year. By the other end of the coin, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is he's so bad that he's unplayable. Lucas winds up coming in so you don't get Jaden murdered. And you have to go into next year needing the best tackle in the class. By the way, the guy who protected Jaden at LSU last year, the number one tackle by most people's boards is the left tackle at LSU. I'm forgetting his name, but that's the guy. And you have to hope that you get a high enough draft pick to get a really good quality tackle, which is really hard. I mean, you see, if you're drafting like 12, you might get the second or third tackle off the board, and you're certainly not getting the kid at LSU. So that would be the worst case scenario is Coleman's future is as a backup, which for a third round pick wouldn't be heinous, but that his future is as a backup tackle, or you bump him inside to guard and you come out of this season having played Cornelius Lucas a ton, which comes with its own limitations, and needing a left tackle in the draft next year. I think that's best case, worst case for Coleman. And for the team, it's the difference potential. Like, I actually don't know how much it swings it in terms of wins. Like, if Coleman's awesome, sure, it sets up a bunch of other pieces to play well to the point that you're talking about closer to 9 or 10 wins. But you could have Coleman be bad, Lucas be good, and still win 8 games. So I don't think the swing is as reliant on that position, even if the future could be massively defined by how he plays this year.
You covered majority of the bases.
That's my job, Anthony.
Yeah.
You toss him up, I just
knock it out of the park.
boom!
Or as Mike Breen would say, bang!
That really started more on a boing track than a bang track.
Okay.
Bang! Unless we're gonna hit lefty today. We switch hitter. Boom! Were you a switch hitter growing up?
No. I stayed on one side of the plate.
You're righty?
I actually only played one year of baseball, though. So
Oh.
I don't know if that really counts.
No. I mean, it counts. Counts for that year.
Yeah.
I played a little bit more than that. But I didn't, like, 9th grade was the last year I played organized baseball.
Oh, 8th
But
grade for me.
I did mess around hitting lefty some. Good times. Good times.
I would say the next player, are we going to get to another one here?
We're in awkward no man's land of clock management.
We are.
So, tell you what. We'll do more best case, worst case next. But first.
Still to come on the Hoffman Show.
All right, here's what we got coming up at 4:30. We're going to do what we call Competition Wednesday because, well, for the Commanders this year, it's called Competition Wednesday. Every single Wednesday, they're doing competitive periods. They're finding ways to get extra competition into practice. And Anthony and I want in on the action. So we are going to pick some games against the spread every single Wednesday. And then obviously we will review the previous Wednesday's picks. And we need your help coming up with carrots and sticks, if you will. We're going to have a wheel that we spin that the winner gets to spin. And if it lands on a punishment, well, the loser's going to have to do the punishment. If it lands on a positive, a reward, then the winner gets the reward. We need your help in figuring out what goes on the wheel. So at 301-230-0980 at 4:30, or you can hop in the YouTube chat, or you can tweet me. We want carrots and sticks, rewards or rewards or punishments for the weekly Competition Wednesday that Anthony and I are going to have. So start your brains thinking, and we'll talk to you about that in 15 minutes. More best case, worst case next.
The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.
It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Exploring the best case and worst case scenarios for a couple of key commanders this year, and specifically some of the new additions. What would it mean for the team if the absolute best version of them showed up? What would that look like? What does it mean for the team? And then what about the other way? What happens if it all goes wrong? Anthony is tossing them up. I'm trying my best to knock him out of the park. Anthony, we hit Brandon Coleman first. Nice little leadoff double. What do we got now? Who's next on your list that we would like to explore?
All right. Next is Cliff Kingsbury.
You're just trying to, like.
We're going to save Jaden for last.
It's not even that. I didn't think coaches were on the table.
All right. Hey, look, we don't have to. We don't have to.
Look, I can make it quick. I can make this one quick.
All right, real quick.
If Cliff is at his best, then Jaden's going to have a really, really great rookie year. He's going to be in the mix for rookie of the year. This offense is going to score well over 20 points a game. Like, we're talking like 22 to 24 points a game. And he'll utilize, like, Terry's going to have a monster year. If Cliff is at his worst, they'll probably start fine. We'll see a bunch of promise, and then defenses are going to catch on, and it's going to be a really rough December and January. That is the difference in this team winning 5 or 6 games or this team winning 10 or 11 games. So, yeah, the coordinator is important. The reason I don't think talking about the coordinator is that exciting in this exercise is that's every coordinator, specifically every offensive coordinator in the entire league, whether they're new or not.
That's fair. All right, we're going to hard pivot. Jaden Daniels, your guy.
Okay, Jaden Daniels.
This one's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, this is not that different from any quarterback in terms of the importance to their team, right? If Jaden plays his absolute best, this team could win 10, 11 games. If Jaden does not play his best, then they're going to not win a lot of games. So that is the obvious team thing. As for what that actually looks like, because that wasn't very specific or insightful analysis, I think the best version of Jaden is one that is aggressive in pushing the ball down the field, continuously gives guys a lot of vertical shots, is on time regularly. He actually he's not making a ton of plays off schedule because he doesn't have to. I think and that's specific to Jaden, right? Is he's not a guy that is going to have a long time to throw number. That's one of the numbers I'm going to be tracking for him this year. Is like, how often is he getting rid of the ball in under 3 seconds? And I want him to have one of the better rates in the league. One, I think schematically, to go back to Cliff and rope him back in, I think the screen game is going to be a big part of what they do, and that obviously brings that average down. But I also think Jaden doesn't need a lot of time to read the field. He's very, very good at processing things quickly. And even when he's aggressive throwing the ball down the field, he makes up his mind and he gets the ball out, which I think is ultimately a good thing. Because, for instance, I was watching a bunch of Baker Mayfield stuff this morning. I was watching all his deep throws last year. And there are times where he's really good at this, where he just is like, I'm going deep here. And he gets the ball out, and that middle field safety or even a cover 2 safety can't get to a ball on the sideline because it's thrown decisively enough, and that also saves pressure from being an issue. Well, Baker's accuracy left some to be desired, to say the least, and that's why Tampa's not a more potent offense and why Baker has been a little more hit or miss as a guy throughout his career, is that accuracy can come and go for him in a way that I think the best version of Jaden is far more consistent. I think also, obviously, we'll see some of the middle of the field reading and some of the layering of throws that you didn't see as much in college because the game's going to demand that of him and he steps up to that plate. The worst version of Jaden Daniels this year struggles with all of that. Struggles with getting the ball out on time. It's a little muddy for him. I think the worst version of Jaden Daniels this year probably winds up running quite a bit because he just doesn't see it cleanly and he's like, screw it. And that still might be effective to a point, but I think there are diminishing returns there versus just getting the ball out quickly to the playmakers. It's one that probably falls a little too in love with Terry McLaurin, which I didn't think was possible after the ignorance of Terry the last couple of years in terms of OCs ignoring the fact that they have an incredible player on the outside. But I think he could overlock into him, and that could, cause a couple of extra picks and turnovers. I think the worst version of Jaden probably takes more hits than you like. And if we're being honest with the repercussions of that, the worst version of Jaden probably doesn't finish the season. That's not the version I anticipate. And again, that version wins you 5-6 games. The best version wins you 10 or 11. And realistically, he'll probably be somewhere in the middle, and they win, somewhere between 7 and 9 games. And Jaden hopefully progresses as the year goes, and things just get cleaner and better and more efficient, and they do a good job of managing him, and the season gets to be called a success whether they make the playoffs or not.
Jane, you got me excited for this season.
Let's go.
Next player I will want to do a best case, worst case on would have to be Mikey Sainristil.
Okay, then we're going to get out of the rookie realm. There's 2 vets I want to talk about, and if you're not going to pick them, I will. I think you know who they are, though.
Yes.
Okay, Sainristil. So here's, Let me ask you a question. Let me answer your question with a question. Is the best version of Mike Sainristil playing inside and outside, or is he just owning the slot? Snap in, snap out. 70+% of snaps that he plays. Because I think the best thing for the team is that he doesn't, right? The best thing for the team is that Forbes and BSJ are good enough that Sainristil doesn't have to play multiple roles. That when there's 2 corners on the field, he just gets to rest. That he's not actually out there. Then he comes in nickel situations, which will be a lot. It will be the predominant number of snaps this year. He'll play more than he sits. As long as he's healthy, right? And I think the best version of that Mike Sainristil is someone who creates, let's say, 5+ turnovers. Maybe it's 3 interceptions, a forced fumble in the field of play, and he gets a strip sack at some point blitzing off the corner, right? It's a guy that you can rely upon in the run game as a corner to come up and make tackles and fit runs and make life miserable for offensive linemen that are out in space trying to get him. Like, you think you got him, nope, he slithers around you, and now all of a sudden he's making a tackle at the line of scrimmage. I think that's the best version of Mike Sainristil, and one that continues to help everybody get organized, is a good communicator. I don't know that he'll be like team captain by the end of the year because there's too many other good vets around that he doesn't need to do that. But like, we all know that in the future, he's going to be that. He and Jaden are the 2 guys that are going to lead this franchise if they get where they want to go, like literally lead it. So I think the best version of Sainristil, for the team, he affects winning. If he really struggles, that could be an issue. But he's a corner. He's 1 or 2 games from best to worst. Realistically, how much does it change any particular outcome? But I think he'll make some game-changing plays, create some turnovers, and he doesn't get beat a lot, right? Like, that's the other thing too, is like he's consistent on top of that. I think the worst version of Sainristil in his rookie year is the game's a bit much for him, and he's got to figure out how to play at his size. That in the run game, teams are able to take advantage of him. They also figure out in the pass game that maybe some bigger receivers can hit certain routes on him, and he doesn't quite have the length to make up for it. Again, do I think that's going to happen? No, especially the latter. I think some teams will probably get him in the run game. He's a rookie. He's going to learn. It's hard. It's hard for the best nickels in the league. So it's going to be hard for him as a rookie, even if his compete level's, 11 out of 10. But realistically, if we're doing best case, worst case, like, he gives up some big plays, especially in big spots. He's unreliable in coverage on 3rd down when a lot of teams attack the slot, and teams take advantage of him in the run game. That would be the worst version of a Mike Sainristil rookie season. I don't think that's going to happen consistently. I do think it'll probably happen some. Like, where's the middle, the reality? I think it probably happens some, but that's life in the NFL when you're a rookie. So as long as it gets better as the year goes, that's success for Mike Sainristil.
I think if he starts the season strong in the slot, I would not be opposed to seeing him in 2 cornerback sets, just because he sort of kind of is asserting himself as our best corner. A lot of the best corners in the NFL, they're starting to play that star role or, in the nickel, and then like in 2 cornerback sets, they go back to the outside. So if he wants to be like a Marlon Humphrey, a Kenny Moore, a Jalen Ramsey, a Jair Alexander, Marshawn Lattimore.
Most of those guys have size, though. That's the thing. He's so...
But Jair's a little small. Marlon Humphrey...
Jair's got length, though.
Yeah, he do.
So
and Marlon.
Yeah,
They're a
so
little bit bigger.
they're definitely a little bit bigger. I'm not telling you it's the best thing for the team is obviously that St. Juice and Forbes are both
work out.
excellent. But I don't think it's a terrible thing if he winds up playing out on the outside. If he's actually good at it, if he earns it, that he's really, really good, and they're not just doing it because it's like, he's better than these other two schmucks, then that's fine. And to be clear, I do not think that BSJ and Forbes are schmucks. I'm actually really excited to see what happens with them this year. All right, last but not least, who do you want, Wagner first or you want Ertz first?
I think we should go Wagner and actually go Ertz, then end with Wagner.
Okay, so the best version of Zach Ertz is a Pro Bowl tight end. And I know that might sound crazy, but like this dude in camp was killing people. He has a great rapport with Jaden Daniels. He was really effective in the red zone. And we're talking about a guy that, has 65 to 80 catches, 7 or 8 touchdowns, is a consistent threat, and he stays on the field all year. The worst case is, let's be real, he gets banged up. He's never quite right. And he's just not that effective. That they try to get the ball to him in big spots. He can't separate. He can't get open. It's not there. And he's not offering you a lot as a blocker. And he's just kind of a veteran that's taking up a roster spot. And I think he'll be a good soldier. I think where he's at this point in his career, like if he realizes he don't got it, then we'll see what that means by the end of the year. But he came into this camp healthy. He looked phenomenal in camp. I'm not saying that you're going to have 60 or 75 catches and 8 touchdowns from Zach Ertz, but like if you told me that he misses 3 games and if you extrapolate his numbers over 17 games, he would have had that, I'd believe that in a second. So I'm pretty pumped for Zach Ertz. And that, by the way, could be the difference in winning 9 games versus 6 games. Like he could be that important to this team. Third downs, red zone, etc. Bobby Wagner, I think Bobby Wagner might have the biggest best case, worst case swing on the entire team. Best case scenario, he's still 90% of Bobby Wagner. He led the NFL in tackles last year. Could he do that again? Yeah, he did it last year. And then maybe they find ways to make sure that he can still do what he needs to do in coverage. And he's still a Pro Bowl caliber player. Maybe he's not all pro anymore. Maybe he's not the best. He's not Fred Warner, but like he's a damn good football player. The worst case scenario is he fell off the cliff and he's cooked. And again, am I predicting that? No. I don't want Bobby Wagner coming for me saying, I heard you said I was cooked. I didn't say that. I just said the reality is at this age of being a football player in the NFL, eventually you get to a stage where you can't do it anymore. And if Bobby Wagner gets to that and he's cooked, this team better hope that Jordan McGee is really ready to play a lot of football and that Bobby Wagner is an excellent quasi-coach. Realistically, I think he'll probably be closer to the guy he was last year. I think he knows how to take care of his body. I think Bobby Wagner's a guy that will probably wind up retiring because he wants to, not because he has to. That would be my guess. He's definitely not A-plus Hall of Fame level Bobby Wagner anymore. But is he a top half of the NFL middle linebacker? Hell yeah, he is, or he was last year. So that's the best case scenario or the most likely scenario for Bobby Wagner. And again, difference in a game or two from best case to worst case, probably in the win column. That's our best case, worst case, Anthony. We did it.
Loved it.
We did it. We waited months to do that.
We did indeed.
We hope that you enjoyed it. Okay, here's what we need next. We need your help. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Anthony and I are going to pick 3 games against the spread every single week and a little something we're going to call Competition Wednesday. And a nod to Dan Quinn's Competition Wednesdays. And we want to put some stakes on the line. We want to make it a real competition. So what should be a punishment for the loser and or a reward for the winner? We'll take your calls. And Anthony, it's Wednesday. We need to pick the actual games. So we'll do that over the next half hour here on The Hoffman Show. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. We got a couple of comments in the YouTube chat, which I definitely is a good way to get your ideas in. Best way, though, is to call at 301-230-0980. So here's the deal. We are going to, on the show this year, we're going to follow the themes of the Commanders week. So every Monday at 4:30 after 1st and 10, we're going to do Tell the Truth Monday, where we let you call in and tell what you think is the truth about the Commanders. Because set you up, hey, tell the truth. I think that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think that they suck. I think that this was a good start. And anything goes. Tell the Truth Monday. 4:30s, nice and easy. Anthony, that one's very straightforward.
Very, very easy.
So then Tuesday, they're off on Tuesday. So Anthony, we're not going to work on Tuesdays.
Okay.
It's Wednesday. I guess we have to keep going. Just kidding. We're going to do our vibe check Tuesday because I don't know. That would be funny. Call CK. That'd be funny if we called CK from the hotline right now. Like, hey, we had an idea for Tuesday. Off day Tuesday, we don't come to work.
You think that will fly with the bosses?
No.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If you know, you know. All right, so Tuesday is going to be our vibe check Tuesday. How do you feel? Now with the day to process it all. Wednesday for the Commanders is Competition Wednesday. So what Anthony and I are going to do is have a competition. We are going to pick 3 games each week. Unlike our regular game picks that we do on Fridays where we pick the whole slate, we're going to pick 3 on Wednesdays against the spread. And then, because that's not like, okay, cool, we need some stakes, not like beef. Like we need some potential outcomes to happen. So we're going to get ourselves a wheel, like Wheel of Fortune wheel, except for not that. That'd be cool if we had a giant wheel. It's probably going to be a much smaller wheel. I'll spin it. It'll be like, tick, 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 tick. I wish I could do that faster. Anthony, can you make the sound effect of the wheel?
No,
you can't. We're going to, me neither. So what a bummer. Good thing we're going to have a real wheel. We're going to have a wheel, and on it is going to have punishments and rewards. And whoever wins that week will have to spin the wheel, and then whatever it lands, if it lands on a reward, the winner gets the reward. And the loser is going to have to do one of the punishments, or is going to have to do the punishment if it lands on a punishment. So you might lose a week and kind of get away with it, and just something good happens to the other person. And if not, you might have to have something bad happen to you. Now, there is one standard prize that we have always kind of done on our show, Anthony, and that is lunch. So I think one of the standards should just be kind of a risk, a punishment and a reward. You have to buy the winner lunch.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
So we have lunch, which goes on both columns. And I don't know that we'll put it on there twice. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll put lunch on there twice because we're a simple show.
Yes, we are.
But everyone's bet lunch before. Nice and easy. And we'll do it at one of the neighborhood restaurants here in Navy Yard. Maybe we won't. Maybe I'll be like, Anthony, we're gonna go on an adventure for lunch. If someone wanted to sponsor the show and host us for a day, Anthony can buy lunch if you buy the remote. You don't have to include the food. We can run it by our sales team. Okay, so lunch, that's easy. The question is, what are the rest of the rewards and the punishments? I would love to get like 4 of each. I don't know how big our wheel is going to be. Our boss did say that he would. We think we have a wheel somewhere in the building. If not, he's going to buy us a wheel. So the wheel is happening. The wheel is happening, Anthony. So we need to fill it out. 301-230-0980. Anthony, before we go to some of the comments I have over here on the YouTube chat, do you have any proposals you'd like to put forth?
Yes. One would be, I feel like we're both fit people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be some kind of some kind of strength challenge, or not necessarily a workout. That's what I'll say, that the other puts you through. So maybe it's like 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups.
So you want to do like a full workout situation?
Burpees, yeah.
I would just make you take my class.
Well, that is, that wouldn't be fair to me, man.
The problem is like when it comes to workouts that are kind of painful, there's nothing worse that you could come up with that I don't put myself through, especially as I'm about to sign up for High Rocks again next March. Oh. So I'm training between now and the end of football season. I'm training for a half marathon and High Rocks. That said, maybe smaller scale weekly punishment. J-World 1976 says, wear the winning team's jersey. That's one. Buy lunch. So we got that one. I want to revisit the jersey thing. Or 50 push-ups.
Well, I can knock out 50 push-ups easy.
That's what I'm saying. So, it
will have to be 100 push-ups for me to make it, really challenging.
I mean, 50 would – I'm not saying it's easy, but, 100 push-ups. We're a fit enough show that we'll make it 100 push-ups.
All right, there it is.
But I think you have to do it, let's say, within the half hour.
Within a half hour?
So, if we're going to do the show, if the segment is at 4:30 on Wednesdays, Competition Wednesday, you have to do 100 push-ups by 5 o'clock. It can't just be 100 push-ups randomly. Spin the wheel, you better get started.
What about show starts at 4, you have until 4:30 to have your 100 push-ups completed?
Well, no, because we won't reveal the winners, who won the previous week until 4:30.
Ah, okay.
So really it should be
4:30 to 5?
It should be between 4, when we break at 4:42 and 5 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, so 100 push-ups. 100 push-ups. And basically it's 100 push-ups as fast as you can, right? Yeah. That's really what we're getting after.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be brutal.
All right. Calls are not coming through, but I think we got some good ones on the chat. This one is my personal nightmare. But Anthony wouldn't mind, which makes it both tempting but also not fair. Fikapo Gondwe says, karaoke, loser sings winner's choice. You don't mind karaoke. I hate karaoke. So it's not really a punishment for you. So I'm going to get off here
But
by
the
not
song could make me not want to actually sing this. I probably wouldn't enjoy singing whatever song you choose.
I just...
Like, the song Missy Elliott, Milkshake?
Yeah, but
So
like...
in my fantasy football league, that is the last place punishment. You have to sing that song.
Yeah,
I would not want to sing that song.
I don't want to do karaoke. It's my show. I'm vetoing karaoke. It's a good idea, but because it's too much for a weekly potential.
Yeah.
This one's fantastic. And there's two versions of it. Tommy T says the winner switches out 2 players on the loser's fantasy team. And he says, or a starter. So I would say the way I would revamp it, the way I like it a little bit better, a little bit cleaner is because remember, it's not guaranteed if you lose, this is it. You lose, you hit this on the wheel. I could, let's say I win and you land on that. I get to do a 1-for-1 player swap in our fantasy league and you don't get to veto it. Same thing going the other way though.
I would not like that.
The other thing that's less punishment, a little bit more of a weekly flavor is I get to make 1 substitution for you. Can't be a bye week. I can't sub like a player on a bye week in. But let's say you have a quarterback against a crappy defense. I can sub in your backup quarterback for that week. You get to do it to me too. I kind of like that.
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Not the playoffs.
Fantasy sub.
That would be brutal.
No playoffs. I think that's fair. All right. We got a couple good ones in the chat. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll pick our first 3 games, and we'll try to round out as many of these as we can. Next, it's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right. We are in the middle of our first competition Wednesday here on the Hoffman Show. Next week, we'll have a wheel. It'll have punishments and rewards on it. And whoever loses are 3 game picks that we're about to make against the spread. And we can pick anything, Anthony. I wrote down 3 NFL games, but I think you got a college game. We're not picking the same games, so we're in total control of our picks. But we got 3 picks. Whoever finishes with the better record, that person's going to spin a wheel. That wheel is going to have a list of punishments on it. We need to try to finalize our punishments by the weekend. So, Anthony, of course, we're eventually going to put this segment on demand on YouTube, and I'm sure we'll get a bunch of comments. So maybe we can finalize the list tomorrow during Never Read the Comments. I'll make sure I get this up as soon as I can after the show. But so far, we have winner buys loser, or loser buys winner lunch. Loser has to do 100 push-ups. The winner gets to make a unchallenged sub on the loser's fantasy team. Only a couple of stipulations there. We don't need to get too detailed into it. And then we'll take a couple more ideas. YouTube chat is balling right now with good ideas. Take calls at 301-230-0980. Let me see if I have any tweets. Has anybody tweeted? Let's see. Someone said 50 push-ups, so yep, we got that. Which is funny because he's like, the loser gets swole at the end of the year. So you're really not even losing. Just get your push-up game on. But we said no. We are a fit show. 100.
Easy work.
100. Okay. Other ideas from the YouTube chat. Oh, that's a good one. Loser has to take an ice bath.
That is a good one because, oh my gosh.
Rachel literally just texted me. She's I guess listening / watching today. She said cold plunge, ice bath. I wonder if she got that off of the YouTube chat or did she have the same idea at the same time as Andrew in the chat.
That's a really good
I
one.
love that one. Do you have a place to do an ice bath?
At Georgetown Prep.
You do? You have an actual cold plunge at Prep?
Well, we have a little silver, what are those things called?
I mean, some places just do it in trash cans.
Well, we have one at Prep is what I'm telling you. It's a little silver little bucket.
Rachel she also said, I would smoke y'all. I can confirm. Having done a cold plunge at a place up in Bethesda with her, she just go. She's a killer, man. But it's okay. She's not picking games, so we don't have to worry about that. Ice bath. We'll have to pick a time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes. We have an actual tub in our condo, so like I could just get a bag of ice and do it. We'll figure out the details. But yeah, I love that. Ice bath on the list. 100%. We'll take like video / audio to make sure that people can experience the hilarity of it. We'll figure out all of the details. Most of these I would like to be able to do on the air, but that one's too good to pass up. Yeah. Ice bath is definitely on the list. All right, Doug had a bunch of ideas. Eating a spoonful of something unpleasant like horseradish. I'm kind of out on that.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Wearing a silly outfit that's mascot related to one of the NFL teams that made you lose. Doug, I love your idea. We don't have the budget for that. Talking in an accent or a voice for a segment. Don't challenge me with a good time. Also, Anthony's accents are...
I'm very limited.
You had a really good one of something last week. I wish I remember what it was. Any idea?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Other person.
Oh, it was the lady that had hit my car.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good time. Wasn't a good time for Anthony. Other person gets to whip cream the other in the face. No, that's like a little violent.
At the end of the show,
just wham, whipped cream pie.
No, yeah, you get a little plate. So at my school when I was in college, we used to do $1 pies, and you used to get pie.
It feels messy.
I think you would save it for the end of the show. But you're right.
Loser takes a paintball shot. Y'all are brutal. Yeah. Doug also said do the hot chip challenge. That feels like more of a if you lose the season type deal. Like a hot wing style.
Yeah.
Something.
Or they could be like a... never mind. I was thinking of something. I don't have anything.
Okay. Are you sure? Whatever was just going through your head?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So here's the deal. If you're listening live, you can hit us in the YouTube chat. or you can tweet us, or you can send me an email. You can, whatever. We're going to try to finalize this by 5:30 tomorrow when we hit Never Read the Comments. But if you're watching this later on demand, aka it's not right now, 4:53 p.m. on Wednesday, September 4th, below, that means you're watching it on YouTube. Below, leave a comment with your ideas, punishments, rewards, and we'll try to. We could also evolve it. Like if you're finding, if it's November and somehow you just found this video that used to be a live radio show that has been turned into a video, and you have a great idea, leave it in the comments, and we can change up our wheel if we get new good ideas, Anthony. But I like where we're at. We have 4 really good ones so far. Now we just need to put them into action here. It's time to pick our first Competition Wednesday slew of games.
Let's get it, man.
All right, you want to go first?
Do I need to say all 3 of my games?
Joe, just go one at a time in case we have the same game.
All right, I'm gonna start on the college ranks.
Okay, we definitely don't have the same game on this one.
So Colorado, they're set to play Nebraska this weekend, and they are underdogs by 7.5. So I'm expecting this to be a closer game. Really, I'm expecting Colorado to pull off the upset. So I'm going to go Colorado plus 7.5. And even if they lose by 7, that half saves me. So
okay,
I'm going Colorado 7.5.
Colorado plus 7.5. Okay. My first pick is going to be a rookie NFL quarterback debut.
Jaden Daniels.
It is not Jaden Daniels.
Caleb Williams.
I think Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, are going to beat the Tennessee Titans by more than 4 points. They are 4-point favorites. I think the hype in the building. I don't really like Tennessee's roster, even though I like their coaching staff and believe they'll figure it out long term. I think Chicago's defense is also really good and could cause Will Levis to have 3 turnovers, 2 picks, a forced fumble, whatever. And I think Chicago could win in a blowout. So I'm taking Chicago. I'm going to try not to pick too many favorites because that's a way to lose a lot of money gambling. But I'm gonna go, or in this case, have to spin a wheel of minor pain on a weekly basis, and then a wheel potentially result in major pain at the end of the year. We still need to figure out our season-long thing, too. But, yeah, Chicago, they're 4-point favorites. I don't care. Take the points. Chicago over Tennessee.
I love that one. I'm not going to lie. My second one, I have another dog in the fight. This is on the NFL ranks.
Okay.
I'm going Baltimore to upset the Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow in NFL's season opener.
How many points are you getting with that?
+3.
Okay.
+3.
+3. All right, so Ravens plus the 3. You're taking the Thursday game. I'm going to take the Friday game.
Okay.
Green Bay. This one scares me because, I don't know how either team plays in Brazil. But you got Green Bay. They're 2.5-point dogs against Philly. I think I like Green Bay better than Philly. I know Philly's really talented, but the vibes are bad. Green Bay, I believe in what they're building. I'm going Green Bay plus the 2.5 against Philly Friday night in Sao Paulo. By the way, speaking of that game, Noah Eagle's calling it. He joins us at 5:30. Last one, Anthony.
Last one. I'm not going to lie, Craig. You stole one of my beats, but it's okay. It is okay because I'm going to pivot, and I'm finally going to take
we can pick the same game.
Oh, we can?
Yeah, we can pick the same game.
Oh, I did have GB Green Bay plus 2.5.
Oh, you had Green Bay plus 2.5 as well?
Yeah.
Okay. My last one then is very Van Pelt of me. New England's an 8.5-point dog at Cincinnati. Cincinnati could be really good. New England could be absolutely terrible, and I hate them as a football operation. Which is why I'm taking the Patriots plus 8.5.
Wow.
It's a big number.
Really big number.
Jacoby Brissett's a professional quarterback. And Cincinnati's got enough questions on defense, and we don't know if Jamar Chase is playing. So there's a chance that by Friday, that number's a lot smaller. That number's 6.5 by Friday. I've got it on Wednesday at 8.5. I get to keep my 8.5. I'm taking New England plus 8.5.
All right, that's a bet.
Boom. All right, that's our first Competition Wednesday. We'll see how we did next Wednesday. We'll try to finalize tomorrow during Never Read the Comments. Our punishment, if you have any other ideas, let us know in the comments. When we get back, We started off the show best case, worst case for the Commanders this year. We had Logan chime in on that on Take Command, and we'll play you those thoughts from the big fella next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And coming up at 5:30, Noah Eagle, my good friend who spent the summer calling the Olympics, the basketball with Dwayne Wade and LaChina Robinson. What was it like to call all those games every day? What was it like to work with Dwayne on his first ever time calling games in front of an audience as big as the Olympics? And oh, by the way, it's not like he's been resting since he's been back. He called the Chargers preseason games for their local broadcast, and then he is on a plane to Sao Paulo where he will call Eagles and Packers for Peacock and NBC on Friday. So Noah Eagle, nice enough throughout his busy schedule to join us coming up at 5:30. Right now, though, for Not My Beat today, we're going to let you listen to a portion of Take Command that Logan and I did actually before, obviously, the first segment on the show today, but with the same idea in mind. What does the best case scenario for the Commanders look like this year? And what does the worst case scenario for the Commanders look like this year?
Today's top story from the
Coming up in just a few minutes, if you want to do your own game planning, Bill Smith, who is the NFL's director of research, is going to join me to give a preview of NFL Pro, which is their kind of remix, if you will, Logan, of NFL Game Pass. Now you can sort and kind of go through film the way teams do, which makes watching film a lot better. So Bill's going to give us a demo coming up a little bit here on the show. So very much looking forward to that. But Logan, let's scope out now beyond the game plans to the full season, biggest of pictures. We've made it through the offseason. We've had all these storylines. We've seen guys develop, young players. We've seen some position battles play out. We've seen some big trades with Jahan Dotson going to Philly. Like, how are you feeling generally? Now, let's get on the football therapy couch. How are we feeling going into the 2024 season for the Commanders?
I mean, I'm excited, and if I said I wasn't, I'd be lying. I think the analyst in me, or the logical person in me, is like, don't be too excited. Everything's gonna be fine. Like, take it one step at a time. And there's some truth to that, but also, like, I'm a fan. I'm excited to watch football. I'm excited to see this team play. I'm excited to see Jaden Daniels on the field. I'm excited to see Joe Witt Jr. execute his defense. Like, all those things I'm really looking forward to seeing. I think the offseason's gone about as well as it could have gone. I think when you look at the hiring of Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and everything that this organization has done, everything they're doing around the practice facility, everything they're doing at the stadium to kind of make it a better experience for the fans, to make it a better experience for the players. I mean, it's all trending in the right way with a ownership group that wants to create a winner. And this is the first step, the first year of that. So that's all exciting stuff. I think it's also good to kind of put a little bit of a modifier on it, at least mentally, right? Like, this team, while I love all the process, still needs an enrichment of talent to a certain extent. And that's not to besmirch or be critical of the guys that are here. It's just like when you look around at, like, the San Francisco 49ers, the Detroit Lions, like the Philadelphia Eagles, like, they have a certain roster construction that allows them to be competitive. And as much as you want to talk, or I want to talk about coaching and X's and O's, like, you need good football players, and getting more depth here is going to be extremely important. And that can't happen now. So I guess going into the season, like, that's my understanding. That's my expectation, is like, I'm excited to see all these things play out, knowing full well that next offseason is critical, and probably the offseason after that is critical as well.
No, I think that's totally fair. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I am very, very cautious because I do see a path for them to win 9-10 games if Jaden Daniels is awesome and some other things play out. But I realistically think they're probably more in the, let's call it 6 to 8, probably 7 or 8 wins. If I had to, like, 7.5 is probably the number that I would give. I think 6.5 is what it's been in Vegas. So I'd probably go over on that, but, like, if it's 7.5, I'm, like, really, really squeezed on it. But that's the NFL, right? Like, the league is designed to be an 8-8 or now a 9-8, 8-9 type of league. And a couple teams are able to way overshoot that. A couple teams get burned by injuries and it's way under. And, the Commanders are in an interesting place because they're actually not kind of built in the way that the league is designed, because they're at the start of an intentional rebuild. But with that being said, that talent dearth is, I think, especially at the top. Like, I actually really love their depth. And I think that really came up a lot when we were talking about putting together the 53. Like, it was hard because some of those back end guys are good football players. And, like, for all the talk every single year of, like, oh, you can't let that guy go. He's going to get signed to someone else's 53, and then it never happens. They had 2 guys that got signed to 53 elsewhere, and a third guy that they traded. So that's 3 guys that other teams were like, yeah, we want that Washington Commander on our 53 that you don't have room for. That's great. But I was listening to a preview the other day, and it's like, how many blue chip players are on this roster? You could argue it's 0. Now, I think John, Duran, Terry all have chances to shoot back up. I think Luvu's got a chance to shoot back up, or to shoot up into that blue chip type of category, depending on how some things go. Obviously, Jaden, you'd hope eventually is a blue chip guy, but he's a rookie, and the chances he's going to play like a blue chipper this year just aren't very high based off the history of rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. But that's it. It's optimistic because I think we like a lot of what we've seen. Cautious because we're just realistic about where the guys on this roster have been recently, whether that is not performing to all pro type levels or in college for some of their guys that are going to be the best players on this team very soon. Not only Jaden, but a Mike Sainer still, etc. So that does beg a question, Logan. If they're going to hit their ceiling, if they're going to have the bottom fall out, what does each one look like? So let's start off with actually, this is not as much fun, but let's end on a high note. So if it falls apart this year, if they're closer to that like 4 to 6 win range, because it's like, oh, it's year 1 of a rebuild, and man, we were not as far along as we thought. Call it a Washington Wizards, because that's what happened to them last year. Then what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think if just right now, and obviously like this is going to change as the season goes on, but I think what I would be skeptical of is like, one of the issues is how does the protection hold up over the course of the season? If the offensive line struggles, if Cliff doesn't have an innovative plan, if there's not a nuanced protection plan each week to maximize that offensive line in conjunction with a game plan, and that group ends up struggling a little bit, I'm not sure there's the horsepower on the outside that you can compensate for. Like, for example, Cincinnati in 2022, when they draft Jamar Chase, like their offensive line's kind of mediocre, but Jamar Chase is able to win so quickly. They're able to push the football down the field. They're able to find explosive plays. I'm not sure there's that same type of horsepower here outside. So if the protection doesn't go and the offensive line kind of underperforms, I definitely think that's something that could kind of torpedo this season and put them in a bad spot. It could stunt Jaden Daniels' development and just put the team generally in a bad spot. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, if the offensive line's fine, and Jaden has a little bit of a struggle early on, which is totally understandable. He's a rookie player, like those things happen. Then that's going to kind of set that back. And obviously they're not going to win games they should win if the quarterback's struggling, which is, again, it's entirely plausible that does happen, and it's entirely reasonable. Like, he's a young player. How many times have we seen young players struggle, but kind of over the course of the season develop and become something that is the franchise, looks like the franchise guy. So I think both those things are things offensively that could torpedo them. And then defensively, I think the one thing that I've circled is, can they consistently game plan and scheme up a pass rush?
Yes.
I think we know what the coverage situation is. It's less than ideal, but we're always kind of banking on, Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., and what they did in Dallas and their ability to maximize rush opportunities for guys. That's hard to do week in and week out. It's just challenging. Much like the protection thing and insulating an offensive line, that's just hard. It's hard as a coordinator. There are certain times the matchups aren't favorable. It's the same thing with the defensive line, the blitz packages, and that front, let's just say the front in general, creating pressure. And so I know I have a lot of faith in Joe Witt Jr., but I also understand and empathize with how challenging that can and is going to be. So those are the two things that I would kind of circle and be like, offensive line, quarterback offensively, and then just the front. And can we generate enough pressure to insulate the back end? Because that's always been one of my assumptions, is that group will play better because the pressure will be better. But that's not necessarily true, because that's a big lift for Joe Witt Jr.
Yeah, realistically, there's a lot of what ifs on the defense, and if some of those go poorly, it could get sideways this season. And I don't think it'll look like it did last year, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be a bunch of coverage busts and there's never any pressure, and like I don't think it's going to be that bad. But you are relying on Quan Martin to kind of make a position switch. He was playing nickel. He's got to be able to convert. You're kind of relying on Frankie Luvu to make a position switch, where he goes from pure off-ball linebacker who's an excellent blitzer to, hey, we're going to rely on you in passing situations to be an edge. And that is a different deal, and I think he's up to it. But you're hoping that switch goes well. Obviously, Jamin, to a lesser extent, being relied upon, but you're asking him to make the same switch. And if he, as we'll talk about in the ceiling, if some of these things go right, then holy crap, like this could be awesome.
I mean, shoot, if you want to go, like, Jeremy Chin, career resurgence, Quan Martin, position change,
right.
Emmanuel Forbes figuring out, Benjamin St. Juste learning into defense, Mike Sanders
the entire secondary is a bunch of what ifs.
And then defensive line is very similar. Can Duran and John bounce back? Is Dorrance Armstrong ready for a full-time role? Like Cleveland Farrell, can he be that? That's what you're looking at here. And so obviously that could go well, or it could not go well. It could go well for some of them and not well. You know what I'm saying? Like and
that's the most realistic, expectation, right? Like if we don't go to the extremes of, hey, how does it completely fall apart? How does it go as well as it possibly could? The realistic thing is that some of these are going to work. Let's say Forbes is great, St. Juste doesn't quite catch on, or the other way around. Yeah. Or like the position switch works for Quan, but Chin sustains another injury because that's been his life since he became in second to Chase Young in Rookie of the Year in 2020. Like that is probably the most realistic thing, that like maybe Luvu it works out, and Dorrance Armstrong we discover is best as an actual third guy, not as a primary number one starting edge. Like that is.
I mean, we hope it's the other way, but again, these are entirely plausible scenarios.
Right, but I'm saying that like some of them work, some of them don't is probably the thing. And I think taking a bigger picture look at this, like my kind of motif for the season, if you will, is like it's a season of discovery. It's a season to figure out, like, part of the reason that they don't go sign Gilmore or make some of the other moves that fans wanted them to that probably would have helped their team in the very short term is because you need to find out if Emmanuel Forbes is good. You need to find out if Benjamin St. Juste can play for you. You need to figure this stuff out. And if the reps aren't available, then you can't figure it out. And so ultimately, like the whole thing for this season is, let's figure out exactly who these guys are. And then next offseason, like you said, it's such a huge offseason to supplement, especially on the defensive side of the football, and invest in the places that you need to, because now you understand what you do and don't have on your roster.
Yeah, and I think that same thing applies to the offense. And I know people are, Jaden Daniels, like, as confident as we are in him after what we've seen in preseason, it's still a question. He's still a rookie player. Offensive line, right? Does Wiley flourish in this offense? I think Cosmi will be fine, but new center, new left guard, probably a rookie left tackle at some point this year. Terry, we know Terry, how consistent he's been, but Zach Ertz's health, over the course of the season, he hasn't been healthy for 2 seasons, and as well as he's done, and as much as they're relying on him, that's going to be a huge deal. And then how do they kind of allocate the second, third, fourth receiver to maximize this offense? I think the way you characterize it with this is a year of discovery is huge, because you got to kind of figure out what your foundation is. And some of these questions are going to be answered in the negative, which is terrible, which is tough, but some of them are going to be awesome. And you're going to be like, wow, look at B-Rob, look how well he did in this offense. We can build around this piece, and we do need to find a second wide receiver, or we do need to find a younger pass catching tight, whatever it looks like. But I think that's the best way to think about it. A year of discovery. And again, if Jaden Daniels plays well, you could easily win 8-9 games. But if all of these factors around him, if he struggles, it could be kind of a middling year, which is also totally understandable given the current situation with the roster. And I'm glad you pointed out, in terms of blue chip guys, there's not a lot of them on this team, right? So usually you need a couple of those to make sure you're making a push against some of the better teams in the NFL. So lots of questions, and I think they're all very reasonable.
For sure. And if we want to now flip to kind of the positive, how do we see them hit their ceiling? It's a lot of those get answered in the affirmative. And I think to even put a finer point on it, this is the year we discover whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 year rebuild. If all of a sudden De'Ami Brown's good in this offense and you're like, whoa, okay, 3rd round pick, took him a couple years. That sometimes happens, but he's a legit 2. Okay, well now it's a party. Let's go spend some money in free agency next year on one more weapon and some defensive guys, or you figure out which of the answers come to the negative, and you're doing a Houston. You're competing in year 2 of a rookie quarterback, which is amazing because that's a bunch of years on a rookie quarterback timeline that you have to spend money elsewhere. Obviously, if it goes the other way and you're like, okay, maybe we're going to need to restock the cupboard over the course of a couple years before we're legitimately competing, then that's a different story. But for the ceiling side of it, Logan, I think obviously number one is Jaden is actually a deliver no assembly required quarterback. That there is stuff he can do, and of course he'll have room to grow, but there is enough stuff that he can do right now that they can compete week in, week out. He doesn't turn the football over as much as a lot of rookies do. He's able to use his legs to generate some explosives. Obviously, he's hitting some deep balls, and he and Cliff just have a good synergy. I think another one for ceiling is Cliff makes the evolution late in season that he needs to, that has kind of plagued him in his career. That there's not a wall at the end of the season. And then I think the pass rush is huge, because I think if the pass rush is there defensively, they find ways to generate pressure, then the coverage will hold up enough. And I think guys like Sanderson and Forbes can kind of go to their instincts and create some turnovers. If not, then we talked about what that looks like. But to me, those are like the biggest factors are Cliff's ability to scheme it up and how that works with Jaden's skill set and Jaden's ability to execute, and then the pass rush defensively. If those three things are on, then let's have a season.
No, I'm totally with you. I mean, I think, again, Jaden Daniels is like the easiest one to point out, but, Brandon Coleman at left tackle, is another one that I would kind of circle too. Like, if he develops in a similar way, that'd be awesome. And then defensively, like we talked about, like the pass rush, and does the scheming and some of the pressure packages they put in camp that no one's seen yet, do those hit the way they think they're going to hit, and do they cause enough disruption? And, again, it's kind of the same thing we just said in reverse, but I do think there's a world where that does happen, and this defense plays significantly better, and the offense is significantly better, and everything kind of progresses well, and with hiccups along the way, no doubt. It's not going to be 17 games just win them all kind of straight out, but I think understanding that there's going to be positives and negatives, but if it's generally trending in the right direction, I think you feel really, really good about this, and really good about the direction of the organization.
No doubt about it. And I think that again, Coleman's a perfect example of what I was talking about with the 1, 2, or 3 year rebuild. Like, if he's not up to starting caliber at left tackle, you need to use a high resource on left tackle probably next year. If he is the starter at left tackle, well, that means you can use a high resource on something else. We're talking like your first round pick on something else next year. And that's a huge luxury to be like, okay, we got our starting quarterback and starting left tackle in one draft. And so those are the kinds of things that in the long term, I think are huge for this team in terms of the rebuild. And, that's why Adam Peters is getting paid all that money, is to get that stuff right. And he's obviously revamped the scouting process. So you'd hope that it's even better in year 2, even though I think a lot of us look at it as being fairly successful in year 1. Anything else before we get to the interview with Bill, Logan, that we wanted to tack on here?
No, I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to see, this is why the season's going to be fun to watch. It's for these positive and negative, kind of growing, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it, to see what this team is, I think is what I'm most excited for. And that all starts versus Tampa Bay. So I really can't wait to kind of see all of this offseason conversation, all the draft, all the free agent acquisitions, on the field, playing football against a team that's pretty solid in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, coming up next, brand new season for the NFL, and they have redone what was formerly known as NFL Game Pass into NFL Pro, which is going to let you watch film like a pro, at least kind of. Logan, perhaps we need to do a tutorial on what to actually watch now that we can sort all the film and kind of get it organized, but what to actually watch for. But we can ask Bill Smith about this as well. He's the NFL Director of Research and Analytics, and I'm going to talk to him about what they've done with NFL Pro and their All-22 platform next here on Take Command. It's my absolute pleasure to bring in a great friend, Noah Eagle, who has been on your television doing everything all summer. The next time he'll be on your television is Friday night in Brazil on Peacock, where he will call Packers Eagles, the one of 3 games that your family of networks has this weekend. Noah Eagle, how are you, man? You must be tired.
Definitely a little tired, but pushing through. Nobody. What's the great quote from Michael Keaton and the other guys? Yeah, I don't want no scrubs. Yeah, or that was TLC.
That
don't
was
go
TLC.
chasing waterfalls.
Yeah.
Also TLC. He didn't recognize that, but yeah, we just push through, man. You know how this is. You know how we're wired and excited to get another awesome assignment. That's really what the big thing is here. So 3 NFL games, including then the college football Saturday on top of that. I mean, it is going to be a special week of football, not just on NBC, but all around the country.
No doubt about it. You guys have the Thursday night opener as well, and of course Sunday night football as scheduled. We'll get back to the football in a second, but I'm just so curious because we were over there in France. We tried to get together in Paris. Our schedules didn't align because you were quite busy calling men's and women's basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like what it was like for you. We haven't actually caught up, so this is a real conversation between friends that's happening into microphones that people get to hear. But like the experience of calling it, especially the men's with Dwayne, someone that I'm sure we're close enough in age that we both grew up watching, including in the Olympics and being arguably the best player on that 08 team in terms of performance. What was it like to go through that process with him? And especially, I think the thing that I'm interested in Noah is he was so outwardly grateful to you for being his partner in that experience. Like on Instagram, he's like, thank God I had Noah to teach me the ropes. So like, what is that like to go through it and then to take a step back after and be like, wow, look at what we just did?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's completely different when you're in the moment and then after the fact when you can actually embrace and analyze everything that went down. But to start on the Dwayne side of it, I'm not sure you could find a classier person in how he handled himself start to finish. Let's not forget he never called a game before. The only game, quote unquote, that he called was like a skills competition and a Rising Stars challenge in the All-Star Weekend format. So he had never called a real game until our first game, which was France-Brazil. And Victor Wembanyama running out on the court, chucking up a shot from half court in front of 30,000 fans who are patiently waiting or impatiently waiting for him to get on the floor an hour before tip-off and drilling a half-court shot. That was his first experience sitting in the chair before a game. And he goes, is this what it's like? I'm like, not always, all right? Not always. This is not, don't get used to this. This is not normal. And I think he embraced that part of it. And obviously, you mentioned it, the experience he had as a player was massive, and he drew on that certainly as an Olympic player, as someone who played with USA basketball and outside competitions as well. But his wealth of knowledge for the game was on full display. His willingness to have fun was on full display. And more than anything, what I hope people took away from him doing it was how much effort he put into it. And he really did. Before we ever got there, he was literally working with a vocal coach to learn how to pronounce European names properly. That's just going above and beyond. And his whole mentality was, well, I had coaches when I was a player, when I wanted to improve my jump shot or I wanted to have a better handle or if I wanted to become stronger, I had somebody as a trainer or an athletic performance coach or a skills coach. Said, why wouldn't I do the same thing as a broadcaster and rely on all the people around me and try to learn? And so he was, as a result, incredibly coachable. He listened to whatever we had to tell him and anything that we heard, but more than anything, he remained himself, which is the most important. You know this. I mean, if anybody who's in this knows that if you want to be successful, you have to be you. You can't try to be anybody else. And I thought he did that. But yeah, I think once it was over and I really took the step back and appreciated the 3 weeks that we were there and appreciated the 2-week run of games where it was, 22 games over the course of 14 days, 17 different teams. That's not quite a normal assignment. So to really step back and say, okay, we did that and we did it well. And we got really lucky with some incredible games, some games that maybe I will never match over the course of my hopefully long broadcasting career. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. One more like Dwayne specific question. Then I do want to know like a little bit more about the prep that goes into calling the Olympics, especially when you're doing the men's and the women's as you were. You have all these many players that you cover as you're doing Nets games in the NBA, and you did Clippers games for a number of years, but a lot that you didn't. So we can talk about that in a second. But that coachability from Dwayne, there's because it can go like I've done this long enough as well. Like it can go one of two ways with athletes. Athletes either think they know how to do it and they don't want any feedback, or they're like, I've been coached my career, coach me up. And then I know that you guys also were able to have like all these moments you guys are posting from going to dinner together and all those kinds of things. Like, how did building that human connection with him and those moments help the broadcast ultimately in what we saw unfold over 2 weeks of you guys calling games together?
No, it's massive because I mean that's what the question that I think people ask me the most is, well, how do you develop chemistry with somebody quickly? And it's really not a difficult formula. The formula is you develop a friendship with that person, a genuine friendship with that person. And even if you're not best friends, it's taking a genuine interest in the person that you're working with and listening and responding and being willing to talk about things, whatever it might be, that are completely unrelated to the games that you're covering. That's important. In fact, that's imperative, in my opinion, to have success as a teammate. And so Dwayne was perfect for that. I mean, the best example of that was week 1. We were in Lille, which was 2.5-hour drive from Paris, maybe even 3.5. If you got stuck in the traffic, we did go in there. And we were staying in, I would say, a very okay hotel. It wasn't the nicest accommodation you'll ever see. And Dwayne Wade, who is in the Hall of Fame and has made a whole lot of money, could have easily said, I'm going to go find better accommodations for myself. I'm going to stay in my own area. But he chose to stay with us the entire time. He stayed across the hall from me. I would say he said it was probably the lowest quality hotel room he had stayed in since his college days, maybe, or maybe even since his high school days. But he did it because he wanted to be a part of the team. And we had explained to him beforehand, hey, this is like a locker room. This is like your locker room. This is the closest thing you're going to feel to your locker room. And we're going to roast each other and we're going to hang out with each other and we're going to poke fun at things that are happening and we're going to create real memories. And then that's going to ooze itself on screen. And that's really what happened. Everything that we were doing was real. And then it just kind of was a continuation. My stats guy, Tyler Freed, said, don't say anything that you don't want getting on the air, off the air, because anything's fair game at this point. And for us, it really was. We would be talking about something on the ride over. The first day, I remember we were doing that Brazil game. It was Brazil and France. And Cristiano Felicio was on the Brazilian team. And I'm like, Dwayne, you played with him in Chicago. And he's like, yeah, he stole a triple-double from me. First thing you said. I'm like, what? And he goes into this whole thing of how he stole this triple-double and he yelled at him. And he's like, come on, man, you got to be smarter than that. And he's like, I didn't have many of those left. I was at the end of my career at that point. We talked about it for 5 minutes. So the first thing, he checks in and out of nowhere, I just hear Dwayne go, it was a cold night in Chicago. And I'm like, okay, I know where this is going now. And there was a whole back and forth. And it was great. So that stuff is really important because if you don't have it, you can still do good broadcasts. It just takes it to a different level.
Noah Eagle, NBC Sports with us here on the Hoffman Show. He's got the call Friday, Packers and Eagles. Talk about that in just a few minutes, but recapping a little bit of his summer spent over in France, calling the basketball. And then, by the way, people are like, oh, he's probably rested him still football. No, he's been calling Chargers preseason, jumped right back into it. So been all over the place. Lots of airline miles, lots of time zones. He barely knows where he is, but he's doing this interview and he's doing a great job. So for a TV play-by-play guy, there's two huge things you got to do. You got to set up your analysts great, and you got to nail the big moments. And lo and behold, you wind up with a huge moment in both gold medal games, the Curry Dagger 3, which sent me absolutely cackling as I was watching in French because we were still in Paris. That was the last night we were there. And just their version of the call was hilarious. And then you have the moment where Gabby Williams' foot is on the line, and you have to process that in real time, which, by the way, I haven't told you this. I was watching that game on the plane. The VPN worked on. I watched you and LaChina call that game somewhere over Canada as we had gone up and back down towards. We were flying into Charlotte and then had to connect. So got to a point where the satellite internet was working well enough to stream the old Peacock app. Love that.
Yo, that's crazy. I don't know how Peacock tracks that in terms of viewership, but whatever it is,
+1.
We appreciate you, Peacock.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You. So how do you with the high? I'm sure you've gone back and watched the calls. Is that almost like an out of body experience? Moments like that, and especially the Curry one, you're calling something that's gonna last forever. That's a moment that's gonna be in every highlight reel for USA basketball for the next 100 years. Does that hit you in the moment? Later, what's that like?
Definitely not.
It just hit you right now.
Yeah, definitely not in the moment. especially because I knew I had 2 women's games the next day, and not just the next day, but starting at 11 a.m. And so that game, after all the ceremony and everything, I didn't get back to my hotel room until 12:30. And now I'm like, I got to prepare for 2 straight games tomorrow. And I think I knew it was big because my phone was definitely blowing up from it, and so that signaled how many people were watching. But I didn't really look at it in historical context. Now I will say this: in terms of the calls themselves and in terms of the moment itself, I had done enough Steph Curry games as an opponent. Certainly different when you're an opponent, and this was the first time I really got to experience it and the jubilation that comes with one of those Steph heat checks. But I had done enough of these to know there's one more coming. There's one more coming. There's another one that's gonna. So you do know that you have to still have another level, and so I took the chance in keeping something late. Now, people have asked, did you come up with the golden dagger ahead of time? I did not. I came up with that in the start of that possession, basically. Anything that I said, none of that was pre-planned. It's impossible, in my opinion, to truly pre-plan any of that stuff. You got to let the game come to you, let the game dictate how you're going to say it. And Steph obviously provided the moments. And now our job is really just don't mess it up, man. Don't mess up this moment. Don't jump on this somehow. Get out of the way when you need to get out of the way. But just if you can add something, great. If not, then just don't try to do too much. And I felt like that's what we did, is we really just reacted very genuinely, very naturally. And so we got fortunate that people seemed to respond. It is funny how quickly things can change, because in the Serbia game, when the U.S. is down 17 in the third quarter, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, Dwayne and I have everyone seemed to really like what we've said. LaChina and I, people have really enjoyed kind of our broadcast so far. We've been really lucky to have a very positive reaction. But if the U.S. loses, and I'm on the call for this, and Dwayne's on the call for this, we go from being, somewhat of darlings to absolutely universally hated. And every time we pop up on screen, it's like, those guys, they're on the failure. Like, I'm like, that's what I'm thinking, right? And then the polar opposite, where obviously they win that game and everyone's like, this was awesome. And then they win the gold medal game and everyone's like, this is awesome. And then the women, same feeling now is happening, because when France is battling with them, I'm like, this is getting tight. And I'm looking at LaChina and she's like, this is getting tight. And we're like, is this going to go the right way? Is because look, obviously they were the more talented team in terms of just overall depth, but it's not like France wasn't talented. I mean, obviously their top players are their top players, and we know what they're capable of. And Gabby Williams came alive in the second half in particular. But at the same time, the U.S. was also going for 8 straight golds. And I don't think we were giving, not necessarily us, but we as a country were giving enough credit to how difficult that actually is, because of how dominant they have been for so long. So in that moment, we're kind of having that same thought of, what are we going to say if they lose here? Like, how are we going to frame that? And then obviously Kalia Copper just comes up huge, massive buckets in the second half and down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Big plays from her, big plays from Asia. She hits the free throws, Copper does, in the last couple seconds, 5 seconds left. And I just remember Johannes gets it up ahead for Williams, and I was pretty certain that the foot was on the line. But that's, to your point, it's a decision you have to make in the moment. Do you wait on it, or do you just say it? And I was at a certain percentage of confidence. Let's say I was 90% confident. I said, okay, I got to take the risk. It's a risk that's going to be worth the reward if I'm correct. And I felt good. But LaChina, right after I think we finished the broadcast, she goes, thank God you were right. I was like, I know. She goes, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see if it was on the line or not. And our producer, the on-site producer, David Gibson's like, I didn't see it either. Thank God you were right. I'm like, I got lucky. You know what I mean? I just took the risk, and fortunately I was correct. But man, both of those finishes were insane. And when I talked to my dad afterward, he said, I really hope you enjoyed those. I was like, they were incredible. They were some of the best games I've ever called. He goes, you're right. And you could call games for 40 more years, and they might be the best games you ever call. So I hope you enjoyed them. I was like, yeah, I did.
So, by the way, speaking of your dad, I did want to ask one question where your dad is going to be a part of it. But I will also tell you, you know what else I watched on the plane was because I'm me and I have the job that I have. I had to watch the Commanders preseason game to be ready for my show the next day, which on NFL Game Pass was the Jets broadcast. And thus I switched from you to your dad.
Let's go.
And went from gold medal thrill to Jets Commanders preseason week 1. Let's go. Let's go. Last thing for Noah Eagle here. The actual reason, in theory, that we're having him on, the real reason is I wanted to have this conversation with Noah because I've been wanting to ask him all this stuff and I thought it'd be really interesting for the audience. And so we got all the background of the summer and everything out of the way. Next up, Packers, Eagles, Friday night on Peacock, 7 p.m. The coverage begins. Week 1 is beautiful, Noah, because we have no idea what is going to happen. Week 1 is terrible for broadcasters, Noah, because we have no idea what is going to happen. So as you prepare for this one, like what is your top storyline going into it? If you want to give one each team, or if you just like, if there's one more overarching one that crosses, sideline to sideline, what is the big thing that you think is the storyline to watch that you'll be tracking and kind of keeping the audience updated on throughout this one beyond whatever plays out on the field?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the overarching storyline for our game is that it's an elite matchup between two teams that believe they can win a Super Bowl this year. And so, how do you start a season with expectations of, hey, we need to go out there and compete for the ultimate prize? And both teams certainly have the personnel, the coaching, and et cetera to do that. And I think that Nick Sirianni is trying to prove, no, I do belong in that elite coaching conversation, despite what happened in the second half of last year. And the Eagles are looking to put that behind them. The main storyline on top of that is the fact that there's an NFL game in Brazil. It's the first time that's ever happening. And so we're going to really highlight that and showcase what it looks like over there. NFL has told us that those tickets sold out very quickly. And so the intrigue in the game is massive. The fandom in Brazil, I didn't realize how much it was growing. They say they have about 36 million fans in that country right now, which is incredible down in South America. But yeah, to just go kind of scope on each team, Eagles have reloaded. You know, you lose some all-time players and certainly Jason Kelsey at the forefront of that, but you retool an offensive line that's still arguably the best in the NFL, a defense that now has young studs on top of the veterans that they bring back on all three levels. Saquon Barkley coming over in division, like that doesn't happen very often. Now you have Jahan Dotson, as you guys well know, coming over in division. Again, that doesn't happen all that often. So offensively, they've got as many weapons as anybody. These are two of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And Jalen Hurts, this is a big time prove it year in many respects. This is a guy that was fighting for the MVP 2 years ago, was nearly a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. And instead, within 2 years, he's gone from highest paid player and near MVP to, is he really the guy we thought he is and was? I think that it's still very much in there with him. And this is the start of him trying to provide that for the rest of the league. On the other side, Green Bay was one of the great storylines of the NFL last year. And Jordan Love and his ascension was one of the great storylines of the NFL last year. But there's a difference between being the hunters and the hunted. And they're going to shift to being the hunted now. How do you handle that? And that's what I'm looking for out of them. I think we know LaFleur has been probably one of the more underrated coaches in the league now for years. I think that he's proven himself to be an upper echelon coach. They win every single year. And even 2 years ago when they just barely missed the playoffs, given the injuries that they dealt with, given the inexperience that they had around that roster, the fact that they were in the playoff hunt to start was pretty remarkable. Now you've got Jordan Love ascending to, now he's the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, which happens with each new deal. So I hate saying that because it feels like every time you say one, someone else takes the mantle. You bring in Josh Jacobs. So both these teams have star running backs now. And on top of that, I find the receiving core with Green Bay fascinating because they don't necessarily have a guy, right? Like you don't have your 1A in theory, but you have a bunch of really good guys. And honestly, sometimes that can be even more dangerous. It's a pick your poison. They've got two good tight ends. They've got a line that I think is going to have to prove that they are ready to be a Super Bowl winning type offensive line, but a defense that's littered with talent and a defense that should be really difficult to face. It's a team that has all the pieces, but how do you handle being shifted from hunter to hunted? And I think that's what we're going to get to see right out of the gates here week 1, because that Philadelphia side, they've got a lot more to prove than they did a year ago.
No doubt about it. Yeah, the Love trajectory, is it going to be what Jalen went through? And a year from now, are we like, why did they give Jordan Love that deal? Or is he actually this good? I think it's probably that one. But fantasy owners everywhere hating the Green Bay receiving core, football analysts everywhere loving it. There's so much to watch. And it'll all be with Noah on the call Friday night on Peacock. Really appreciate you, dude. Thanks so much for being so generous through your time. And I'll catch you at some point later in the season, or perhaps when you come to town in the spring for the most vaunted assignment on your schedule, Wizards Nets.
You know I'm ready, man. You know I'm always ready for the Wiz. I saw a lot of Bilal Koulibaly, so it'll be time when the time is right. But Craig, appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
As they say in France. Allez!
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And, man, they put a new headphone jack over here, Anthony, and it's in a really bad place for the chair. And I think I knocked the headphones. And now, oh, there we go. Now I got it sound in both ears. But nope. I'm like losing sound in my right ear. It's not ideal. Might need to go get my adapter and use a different jack.
Do you have sound in both ears?
Normally, because that's how headphones are supposed to work.
I never do. That's why I wear mine
I think
like this.
the jack is messed up over there. But I'll hear it. Now I won't be able to hear you for a second. But look at this. You see how crooked that is?
Yes.
That's not what a headphone jack is supposed to look like.
It's crook.
So we're going to have a word with our folks that – where does this go? Oh, there we go. We have to have a word with the folks who put this in and thought it was a good idea to put it right where the arm of the chair is, because that's not how this should go. We're going to have to see if that can get moved. Now I can't get any sound. Anthony, while I figure out my headphones, you want to hit the Pick 6 intro?
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level, build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, we're going to do this somewhat headphoneless, which is not ideal. I can't hear anything. Anthony, I'm going to have you do me a favor here. In my locker, this is live radio producing. In my locker, there is a 1/4-inch adapter. You know what I'm talking about? If you can grab that for me, that would be great, because I'm flying blind right now. So I'm going to assume this button's going to work, and we're going to dive right into our Pick 6.
Number 1.
Yeah, number 1 is Sam Cosmi got an extension. Yay! We love this for Sam Cosmi. He's been an excellent player, of course, for Washington. Definitely their best offensive lineman. So what was it like to work with Adam Peters and his agent and everybody and get all that together?
Favor Jesus Christ for just, blessing me and then, giving me and my family this blessing. Without him, none of this would be possible. So I want to just first and foremost say that. And then, my family, my parents, they came from, I'm first generation here. This is a huge thing just for me and my family to have this opportunity to work towards this. And, they came to this country with just the shirt, just the backpack and the shirts on the back. So to do something like this and for them to give me this opportunity is huge. So I just want to thank my family and everybody that was involved throughout this whole process. And the way I feel, I'm just super blessed. I'm so super grateful, and it just makes me want to work even harder. I'm thankful to this organization. I'm thankful for the people that were involved into this. Ryan Toller, my agent, he was awesome with this, and then AP and all the guys on this part. So I'm just thankful to everybody that was involved in this for sure.
Awesome for Cosmi, man. You can tell how much it means to him. I mean, what a story, too, by the way. His family story, first-generation American, plays the ultimate American game and lives the ultimate American story. He's great at it. He perseveres through some various circumstances, both injury and position switch and the whole deal. And he gets this. And he's a dude who sets a tone. He's got a nasty streak. Like, everybody loves playing with the guy, and that certainly includes his new quarterback, the guy he's going to line up in front of. That's Jaden Daniels.
Man, Sam deserves it. Happy for him. Obviously, we heard the news earlier, but he deserves it. It's good for him and his family. It's good for us long term to have a player like that, a cornerstone piece, moving forward.
It's awesome for the team as well. The less questions you have on your offensive line, especially when you got a young quarterback, we call that better for the old program. And so Sam Cosmi locked in. And now you got to prepare for Tampa, which means Todd Bowles.
Number 2.
Bowles, known as a guy that will blitz in a lot of different situations, shown it for years and years and years in Tampa. And Daniels talked today about preparing for not just protecting himself, but how do you take advantage of those situations?
Be successful.
Just talk about it in the protection meeting, stuff like that. Be able to just communicate. This is what they're seeing. This is the calls that we're thinking. And then we go out to practice. Obviously, we're just trying to get everybody on the same page.
No doubt about it. And what is Sam Cosmi seeing in his preparation for Tampa?
A high blitzing team, very talented. They have a lot of good players. Made the playoffs last year. Did really good during that time. They're really, really overall really solid team. And so it's going to be a good matchup. We're expecting a fist fight. We're going to do everything we can to be the ones on top.
And as for those blitzes, what do Cosmi and his mates up front have to do to pick it up and keep Daniels clean in his first career start?
Like I said, they bring a lot of. They're like the third highest blitzing team from what I've heard. Just going based off our rules, our game plan, and just over communicating, just being abundantly of communication when it comes to, what we see out there in the film room, on the practice field, those type of things. And the thing is about this unit, we got a lot of smart guys on this unit. A lot of guys that know ball, and can see things working out and before it happens, type of thing. So.
The unstated part there is that Cliff Kingsbury has got to make sure he calls a clean game for Daniels and that line to protect them. Like, as a coach what situations are going to invite blitzes, what situations Bowles likes to bring pressure in. And while it's game one and new personnel and everything, you might not know exactly what the pressure is. If you know it's coming, do you have answers with the screen game? Do you have answers with some running? Can you undress the blitz, run away from it? Like, there are things you can do. Do you know we got one-on-ones on the outside, and we're going to, our blitz plan early in the season is to throw deep and take some shots. Like, whatever the plan is, they just got to make sure that they're ready in those situations. And that starts with Cliff and the play calls more so than the players himself. And, for Dan Quinn and the way he's looking at it, he feels like Daniels is actually the perfect weapon to go up against a team that likes to blitz as much as Tampa does.
Yeah, it's a good question because you have to be able to process quickly, John, because part of the blitz package is showing blitz, getting out, showing blitz, bringing it, and that's part of the disguise that goes with that. And so for Jaden, the ability to process things quickly, sometimes as a quarterback you need to speed it up in terms of, okay, this is an unblocked player, we're only protecting with 5, they're bringing 6, how do we get it to the playmaker and get yards in that way? So it's one of the things that he's been strong with, decision making and the ability to speed it up.
And we'll see if he can do that. I mean, we saw the example in the Miami game where he threw the ball over Terry McLaurin's head, but he knew I have pressure and we don't have it picked up and I got to get rid of the football. He avoids taking a big hit, avoids a turnover. That kind of football can get you a long, long way. One last thing on Sam Cosmi before we break in the middle of our pick six here. We'll pick up with the last 3 storylines we have for you on this Wednesday in just a minute. But
number 3,
why did Sam Cosmi, before we fully get away from the O-line and the man who just signed a big old $76 million extension, why was Sam Cosmi comfortable signing in Washington? Well, he wanted to be a part of a future that he thinks is pretty bright.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for what this team's future has ahead. I think AP is really putting together something special, and DQ, and I'm excited to be a part of it. It's so different from the past 3 years that I've been here, and so to feel that, the atmosphere is just different, and you can just see that. I think everybody sees it, and so we need to put it together this season, and I think we will. And I think we got the guys to do it. So I'm excited for the season.
I think that he speaks for a lot of us. We're excited to see what they can do. Obviously, a lot to do, whether it's on that offensive line. And he might have a bunch of new teammates over the next years that he's just signed this extension for. But I do think that they got him right, and they'd rather lock that in sooner rather than later. And now that they feel comfortable with his work ethic and that he really fits the future. Like Sam Cosmi embodied the future even though he came from the past. And that's why they lock him up. And congrats again to Sam Cosmi on the new deal. More on Tampa and more from Dan Quinn next in the back half of our Pick 6, including Quinn's opening statement, the thing that he wants everyone to know heading into Week 1 against the Buccaneers. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It is a competition Wednesday. Anthony and I picked some games earlier. We set some stakes, too. If you want to check that out, just rewind in the Odyssey app to 4:30, and you can hear what that is all about. But it was the first competition Wednesday for the Commanders here ahead of Week 1, Jaden Daniels' NFL debut against the Bucs, and we are in the middle of our Pick 6 at 6.
Number 4.
All right, number 4 is the opening statement for the week. Dan Quinn's a big message guy. Very, very good at the messaging of what he wants, and that matters to the fan base and makes us all feel good, but I think it also is good for the team. Everything is clear, communicated, and very much on the same page. So what was his opening statement as we head full throttle towards Tampa Bay on Sunday?
This is a really good coach and part of the alumni group, but not this week. So, but Todd's an excellent coach, and when we matched up against numbers of times, and a lot of respect for him. Offensively, when you think about Tampa, there's playmakers, and there's outside at receiver and at running back as well, and quarterback. And so that presents the challenge, for the defense, quarterback who can extend plays and receivers with size to go extend plays. And so those are, definitely the ones. And I've certainly been impressed by the back. This is a true every down back that you can get this many catches, this many runs. And that doesn't happen as much anymore in our league. And so respect for that. Defensively, this is a group that's really known for their blitz package. I think that's one of the things, through the years with Todd that, always been impressed with by watching their teams, the run defense, and then for them, some playmakers, both at safety, linebacker and a defensive line. They've kept a, deep crew, it feels like, for a while, a defensive line and some good ones. Then I think the special teams matchup, everybody's kind of smiling and waiting to see. They've got a good kicker, punter, and then we're all wanting to see on kickoff and kickoff return what that looks like. And, we'll see it all. We can get it all. Some weather, maybe some thunderstorms. So, everything's on the table, and it's a great matchup. These are two tough teams that are going to have to really battle for it. And that's exactly, kind of what you're looking for in your opening game to get.
Something we got to track this season, Anthony Haney. Does Dan Quinn frequently talk about punters and kickers in his opening statements? Every coach does it a little bit differently.
He definitely does.
I hope that he does.
It's important, though.
Yeah. I mean, it is, especially like he said now with the way the rules are on kickoff. Gotta have that part of the game covered. But when you're listing off, hey, Rashad White's really dangerous. They got some great receivers. The Bulls blitz package. By the way, their punter and kicker's really good. I just think that's a coach speak foul. Throwing the flag on Dan Quinn. We gotta be careful of that. We don't do coach speak sound bites on this show. We gave you a shot, Dan. We gave you a shot. Next week, Anthony, potentially some more editing.
Still less.
All right. But he's right. There's a ton of talent on this Tampa team. Baker's super hot and cold. He's on. Good luck. He's off. Your luck is good, and you're going to have some chances. And that's the thing is, no matter what, really, you're going to have some chances to make some plays. He is going to put some balls up there, and I think this is going to be a huge test. We'll talk about this later in the week, the more we get into Tampa. But we are definitely going to learn something about Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St-Juste this week.
Number 5.
Number 5 in our pick 6 at 6. What are the things that you don't want to see on Sunday? We spend so much time. Hey, what do you want to see on Sunday? Hey, let's flip the question. Dan Quinn, what is it that you don't want to see on Sunday against the Buccaneers?
At the end of it, our core principles obviously is, taking care of the ball, going after it, our tackling, the communication that we need to see. Those are right at the core. So I want to see those every time we play. The discipline usually wins out, in an opening game because the same nervous energy Tampa has on the same things. I haven't seen this, both of them have that, both teams have that. But who can have the discipline to pre-snap, post-snap, stay in it, play the next play, play the next one. And again, a game like this, it's going to be a hard fought. It's going to go all the way down to the end. And we'll be prepared for that, knowing that good, tough games, it takes the whole game to win it. And we have no doubt this one's going to be a tough one for sure, and it'll take the whole afternoon and into the evening, and if it has to go past that, we'll be ready for that too.
What is Dan Quinn wishing for? Does he want a double overtime game? Dan, they've stopped playing eventually. It's overtime. It's 10 minutes long. It would really mess up our post-game show.
I mean, I guess he was more so just saying, the game starts in the afternoon.
The 4:25 kick. We got it.
But if it goes to the night, oh well.
Hey, I mean, I guess. By the way, Take Command post-game show. We should have a fun announcement of that tomorrow of how we're going to do that this year. But 7:30, you want to be on YouTube if you want it live on Sunday night. Of course, if you're subscribed to Take Command, you'll get it straight away. But we're going to do something fun with the post-game show this year, so make sure that you are tuned in for that. And that'll happen at 7:30 as long as it's after the game, because apparently Dan Quinn is going to find ways to extend the football game. But I think the message is good, right? It doesn't matter how long we got to play. It doesn't matter if it goes to overtime. It doesn't matter if it's a tight game in the fourth quarter. We're ready. We practice. We're prepared. And I do think on a more functional level, they are. They did a ton of situational work. They're ready for red zone stuff. They're ready for 2-minute. They're ready for 4-minute because they practice that stuff as much as any team that I've ever seen in any training camp that I've been a part of in terms of covering. Obviously never participated in one. But in terms of covering, over 8 years, or whatever it's been that I've been doing this, 9 years, almost 10 years that I've been covering camps and covering teams up close in the way that I have covered the Commanders. Shoot, man, they are ready. They got to execute, but at least they're prepared, which is nice.
Number 6.
All right, last but not least, what about the rookies? How comfortable are you with Brandon Coleman, and what's the status of Johnny Newton? Let's start with Coleman first. Here is Quinn this afternoon.
It's an example of you can only control the things that you can. And so would it have been better? Yes. But okay, that is not how it went down. But this player's really put in the work and he's really ready to go. So we're excited to get him into it. Would it have been better for him and anybody else? Of course. But like I said, you can only control what you can. But the player is really put in the work and is ready to go.
I think he's starting. I mean, I know the unofficial depth chart came out yesterday, and it's just that. It's an unofficial depth chart. You put it out, but every version of every depth chart and every time that he's been healthy, he's taken the 1 reps. Brandon Coleman's starting, and I love what Quinn's message is there. Yeah, it would have been better if he had gotten to practice more, but he didn't. So we're going to live with what we got. He's still the best option. And so you're going to throw him out there and, baptism by fire. See what happens. But, if he has a rough one, okay, still believe in the player long term. They'll prop him up. They'll get him back. And that's life in the NFL. Sometimes you have bad ones, but I think Coleman's athleticism, I think his his willingness to work, his mental makeup, his toughness, all that stuff speaks well to what he's capable of. As for Jerzon Newton, where are we at with his health and his ability to play this weekend? One more time, the head coach.
Yeah, we're going to work. He'll go work today. And then we'll go limited tomorrow and then work again Friday. And then I'll have a better assessment for you when we get together Friday afternoon. But it'll be good to get him back into the stuff. He's raring to go, but like most things, we're not going to miss a step for him. So I'm going to take it all the way through the week and see where he's at.
It's kind of funny. Every time I feel like they've said that about Jerzon Newton, the next day he's a full participant in practice. And it's okay, well, they're not skipping steps, but apparently he's ahead of the program. So I'm curious to see what that means. They're saying the right things. That way, if they pull him back, it's not what happened to Jerzon Newton? I thought you said he was good to go. The messaging, it should always be far more conservative in that front on the injuries. And then, hey, pleasant surprise. He's responded well. We love to see it. He's young. He's healthy. Hey, go Jerzon. But we'll see if he can get to play this weekend. Would be a huge boost. But again, they kept Fedarian Mathis. That he's going to be one of the primary backups for sure. We'll see if they rotate some guys from the outside, inside. I'm really excited to see the usage packages for this D-line. And obviously Newton's going to play a big role in that. But a lot of other things will get learned this weekend as we finally get into the regular season. That is our pick 6. We will give you the top headlines for the Commanders multiple times a week at 6 o'clock. So always make sure that you are locked in here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. When we get back, we also had our fantasy football draft today. We'll tell you how it went, our league fantasy draft. That's next here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. Earlier today on my YouTube page at Craig Hoffman, we live streamed our show's fantasy draft. Anthony, we did it. You had to be a little bit late, which is funny because we actually haven't talked about on the show. We haven't gone into the reason that you were late today, which is a story, I guess, if you want it to be for the radio, but also I guess doesn't have to be a story for the radio if you don't want it to be.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. So there was Anthony got in a car wreck a couple 2 weeks ago at this point.
A week ago.
But it wasn't his
Wednesday,
fault.
actually.
He did what he was supposed to do. He stopped, and the car behind him didn't, and it's been a literal pain in the back to deal with.
It has been. So I was a little late because I was on the phone with my I have a lawyer in this whole ordeal, and they were making sure my PT was getting taken care of and squared away, and that was of utter importance just because my lower back to this day does hurt.
Doesn't feel very good.
No, and I'm talking about routine, putting on my socks.
Too young for this.
Yeah, this
Too young.
It's ridiculous, actually.
So Anthony was not late to draft, folks. Not late to draft, but was late to join the broadcast of the draft. But it's okay. George Carmi did a great job holding it down. My guy Tony Squares, we had a good time. Those guys, George and Tony, they're deep into fantasy land. It's funny because, Anthony, I get asked all the time for fantasy advice. That's not surprising considering what we do. And I tell people I'm actually terrible for fantasy advice because my skew of the league is so commander-centric. Like what I do day to day is so commander-centric. And I try to have perspective. I try to follow what's going on with other teams. I try to zoom out to be actually good with the analysis. But when it comes to like fantasy, what people really want is like, oh, who's the sleeper running back from Tennessee that's going to be actually a really good. I'm like, I don't know. I can tell you, I can name like all 90 guys that were on the Commanders until they cut it down to 53. I can name all 53 Commanders. I can't tell you the third running back in Tennessee or the sixth wide receiver in Minnesota. Like, I don't know those dudes. And so there's people whose job it is that write on the internet or do podcasts. I got our guy Field Yates, from ESPN, Matthew Berry, like, pick your favorite fantasy. We have the Reception Perception podcast. James Coe does a great job in the Odyssey family. Like we got all kinds of people that do fantasy, and their work is out there. And you'd like to ask me, your personal friend, like I'm going to give you some top secret advice. I don't got nothing for you. And yet I still do decently well every year in our league so far. I finished top half of the league both years. So there's that. We had a good time on the broadcast. If you want to go back and watch it, you can on demand at Craig Hoffman. But the teams is really what people want to know about, Anthony. How do you feel about your team?
I love my team.
I like my team. I don't know that I love my team. I like my team.
I love my team simply because it's a little different than what I did in all my other fantasy drafts. I'm in 5 fantasy leagues. And this was my 5th one. So I think by the time you get around to your 5th one, you sort of kind of know what you should be, who you should be looking out for, what sleepers you can get late in rounds and things of that nature. So I think this is probably my best draft.
Yeah, no, this was my first and only draft. So there was definitely a couple of times where I'm like, man, am I dumb? Am I overthinking this? What's going on here? As I make a couple of lineup moves real quick. Yeah, so I wound up with my QB1, who I just subbed out because he got a tough matchup in week 1, is Dak Prescott.
I love Dak.
Like, he's really good. They're going to throw the ball a ton. Like, he's going to have some 400-yard games this year. Dak Prescott, at the time I got him, felt like a pretty easy pick. My running backs are from your Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson. I think he could have a huge year. James Conner from Arizona, which is hilariously who he gets compared to a lot. My first pick, as I was 5 overall, I got JJ. I got Jets. Yep. So Justin Jefferson, I got Puka Nacua. Sam Laporta at tight end, I felt like I stole a bit. Maybe that's what happens if you get a tight end who's really good, though. I mean, dude set the rookie record for catches for a tight end last year.
You got him in the 4th round or the 3rd?
It might have been like the 5th, bro.
You got him in the 5th?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's pretty good then.
I think I got JJ, Puka.
Tay Adams.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is it currently in my flex.
Which was crazy. I was like, dang, you got all 3?
Yeah. Laporta. And then I got the Lions and the Bears defenses, Cairo Santos kicker. Then my backups, Chase Brown, I'm taking a flyer on for Cincinnati because he might wind up being their RB1. And if he's really good, they'll ride him. If not, they'll split carries with Zach Moss. But I think Brown has a chance to be the guy who plays more. Dallas Goedert, I'm like, I don't know. When he's healthy, he's awesome. I know there's a lot of other mouths to feed in that Eagles offense, but like they feature the tight end quite a bit. Jameson Williams, boom or bust, but dang, when he booms, business is gonna boom on him. And the reports are he's got a lot more targets in the current version. With a couple of guys that they lost in the offseason, they were willing to in part because they believed in Jameson Williams. And then I took the Green Bay shot. I was like, let me go for Romeo Doubs, see if he winds up being awesome. Lions, I've already mentioned, and then Gabe Davis, I took a flyer on. He was literally my last non-kicker pick.
Solid team.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Team. I do feel as though, so when we did the draft, I do feel as though you had a great value pick in the Bears defense. They're one of the slept-on defenses.
Well, especially because they got Tennessee week 1.
Well, I'm just looking like full season as well, but yes.
Yeah.
Week 1, they also have a great matchup.
I'm kind of a defense by opponent type of guy typically.
Oh, so you're going to be swapping in and out?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I think between the Lions and the Bears, I'll probably be all right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how often I'm going to – I mean, the Lions' schedule is going to be tough.
Yeah, I was about to say got a tough one.
But the Bears' schedule, they're going to play a lot of bad football teams. So –
They're also in the NFC North, though, so.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I know. Well, there's that.
Yeah. And then the only overdraft I would say of your team was Brian Robinson for sure. But I understand Commander-centric. You think he's going to go for 1,200 yards?
I think he could have a monster year.
If
I think
he
he could
does
run
that,
for 1,100 yards.
Hell of a move.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, was the running backs were getting a little thinner than I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's a bona fide RB1 that they're going to use a lot.
Yeah.
So sign me up.
I think it's because I took all of the running backs. So my team, I took Jonathan Taylor first. Then I went with I took Jonathan Taylor. Then I took Garrett Wilson. Then I came back and got Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, all of a sudden I was like, is Kelsey still on the board?
Yes, he
was.
was.
And then he was, and I was like, dang. You got him right before I was going to make the leap. Probably me and everyone else.
Yeah. And then James Cook was still available. I think I got him like either around 60 or 70.
He's the one that fell probably the most of like the top 30 ranked players on ESPN's board.
Yeah.
In part because I took Robinson amongst others ahead of James Cook. And maybe that was stupid. In hindsight, that might have been really dumb.
We will find out.
You got the advantage on that one.
And then I went Zay Flowers. So I only have 2 really good wide receivers, but my running back core is pretty strong. At QB, if you're a Washington Commanders or Washington, football, Washington franchise fan, Kirk Cousins is my quarterback. Yes, I still believe in Kirk, and I wish we had signed him, but we didn't. Defensively, the Falcons, people sleep, man. Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell.
That was a great pickup.
Man.
And they got Pittsburgh week 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be any good.
So, yeah, those are my starters. And then I have Nick Chubb on my bench, who I'm excited about because I have him in probably like 4 of my 5 leagues. He's going to come back, and down the second half of the season, he's going to win me a league or 2. So,
hopefully not this one. You did do something very silly at the end of this draft. You took both Demario Davis and Jalen Polk.
I did.
So you were like, I'm going to double up on Patriots wide receivers in the hopes that one of them is decent.
Yep.
And that's like the worst team you could have done that with. So there's that. You also have Deontay Johnson on your bench. So you have just bad wide receivers on your bench.
Yeah.
You did grab TJ Hawkinson and stash him on IR, so I think that was smart. And you have Bo Nix, who, I don't know, fantasy-wise, he might wind up being okay. We'll see. Here's the last thing I need to do, Anthony. I need to figure out what I want to name my team.
Oh, yeah. I got to change my team name, too. What is yours right now?
Mine's just Team Hoffman right now because I'm someone who likes to see what, like, if I can come up with a fun one based off of the players that I got. I feel like there's probably a Caleb Williams something.
Oh, I got one for you.
What's that?
Second place.
What's yours?
First place.
Sixth.
I won the league before, Craig.
This is true. It's
I
true. That was a
won
good.
the
That was a
league
good
before.
line. That was a good line. I'm not gonna lie. That made me chuckle. I just put second place. I feel like there's got to be some good, turn on the Jets, something like that.
Okay. Oh, you want to do it off one of your top players?
Justin Jefferson. Yeah, Puka. I mean, make you Puka, something like that. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Those weren't any good.
You got some time before Thursday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Before
A shot of Jameson.
Ooh.
I got Jameson Williams.
Okay.
That one's not bad.
Yeah, that
also-
actually wasn't.
It's actually also probably how I'm going to approach Jameson Williams this year. A shot here, a shot there. Not going to be an every weekend occurrence. All right, so I'll figure that out. I'll just put the team that's going to win. Anyway, that was our fantasy draft. It was a good time. When we get back, we wrap up this radio show. That was also a good time. All right, wrapping up here on the Hoffman Show, Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Let's see. Oh, we got a how many unread text messages deal in the Real Things folder. Yep, I'm pretty pumped about that. Also, the White Sox going full White Sox, and our pal Kevin Brown narrating the action on the Orioles telecast. So quickly, Anthony, because I do want to hit both of those in Real Things, what was your favorite part of the show today?
Favorite part of the show, probably discussing best case, worst case.
I really enjoyed that.
Early in the show, just because, again, it's setting the season up, and it's not necessarily, getting our expectations too high, because we understand there is a floor, but there also is a ceiling as well.
For sure. Tomorrow we'll make our actual predictions. We'll pick every division winner, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. Anything else we need to pick? I think that's Rookie of the Year.
Oh, Super Bowl participants.
Yeah, obviously all the actual winning stuff and then the awards. So we'll do all that tomorrow. Also tomorrow, oh damn, I didn't say this earlier in the show. This is a bad job by me, but better late than never. Dan Orlovsky, everybody. Yeah, ESPN's Dan Orlovsky joins us tomorrow here on The Hoffman Show. Any other housekeeping, Anthony, other than for all of the good stuff we did today, people should check out The Hoffman Show podcast wherever they get their podcasts?
Nope, I think that's everything.
Excellent. Let's do Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All right. Do we go Kevin calling chaos, or do we go how many unread texts first?
I think we go chaos.
I agree. Last night, the White Sox, they're the worst team in baseball. The White Sox are not exactly a team that has a hallowed history of greatness. They've been terrible a lot in their history. This is the worst White Sox team ever. And on full display last night against the Orioles, and Kevin Brown, my good friend, on the call on the Orioles television network that we know as massive.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you have great stuff, you can challenge over the white part of the plate a little bit more and let your stuff just play. If you don't, you better figure out.
Oh, no! Oh, my goodness. The White Sox have just gone full White Sox.
Pop up, shortstop, third baseman, left fielder, all come together. One dude gets out of the way. The other two just careen into each other. And lo and behold,
White Sox have just gone full White Sox.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, you do. And I feel like in the NFL, you have teams like the White Sox. You have the Jets. You have the Bears.
Like, that was a butt fumble level play last night. That's really what it was.
That's how bad it was.
I got an Apple News alert with the White Sox have gone full White Sox, and I turned to Rachel and I was like, man, it must be really miserable being on a terrible baseball team. The season is so long. And little did I know that it would wind up in Real Things today with Kevin on the call. All right, which team did this, Anthony? How many unread text messages?
So it actually wasn't a team. It was just a series of players. So you got Luka, you got Jason Tatum, and you got Zion Williamson.
Okay, how many unread text
Paolo
messages
Banchero, my bad.
do you have?
How many unread text messages do you have right now?
Damn, unread text. Hey, Rico, let me see my phone, the one without a case.
How many phones do you have?
I have 2.
I have no idea.
A lot?
I have probably 57 unread texts.
That's not bad.
That's not too bad. I respond.
Wow, I have 655 unread messages.
Are you always kind of in the triple digits?
I am. There was a time period where I kind of like took pride in, I don't want to see no number there, but then after a while, you got so many group messages and stuff, it's hard to keep up.
The group chats can be brutal.
For sure.
2,353.
That's the most so far.
I tell people all the time, I'm a bad texter. If you want to really get a hold of me, you probably got to call me.
That's Paolo Banchero.
Old soul Paolo Banchero. Hey, call me. There's other people that are like, the worst way to get in touch with me is to call me. Where are you? Are you a call? Or are you
I'd rather you text me, but my parents always say, call me. And I hate when they do that.
enjoy talking on the phone to people I want to talk to on my terms.
Yeah.
Text me, just calling me out of the blue, that's presumptuous. Chances you're going to catch me, but like if you want to say, hey, I'll call you after whatever, perfectly fine. I might go call someone on the ride home right now because the show's over.